Mongolian spot. A Mongolian spot, also known as slate gray nevus or congenital dermal melanocytosis, is a benign, flat, congenital birthmark with wavy borders and an irregular shape. In 1883, it was described and named after Mongolians by Erwin Bälz, a German anthropologist based in Japan who erroneously believed it to be most prevalent among his Mongolian patients. It normally disappears 3 to 5 years after birth and almost always by puberty. The most common color is blue, although they can be blue-gray, blue-black, or deep brown. Cause: Mongolian spot is a congenital developmental condition, that is, one existing from birth exclusively involving the skin. The blue color is caused by melanocytes, melanin-containing cells, that are usually located in the surface of the skin, the epidermis, but are in the deeper region, the dermis, in the location of the spot. Usually as multiple spots or one large patch, it covers one or more of the lumbosacral area, lower back, the buttocks, sides, and shoulders. It results from the entrapment of melanocytes in the lower half to two-thirds of the dermis during their migration from the neural crest to the epidermis during embryonic development. Male and female infants are equally predisposed to slate gray nevus. People who are not aware of the background of the slate gray nevus may mistake them for bruises, possibly resulting in mistaken concerns about abuse. Anthropological description. The French anthropologist Robert Jessin interested himself in what he called the tache pigmentaire congénitale, or colored birthmark, publishing multiple papers in the Journal de la Société des Americanistes, an academic journal covering the cultural anthropology of the Americas. Jessin spent time with the Huihuetl people in Hidalgo, Mexico, and wrote in 1947 about the spot's location, shape, color, histology, chemistry, genetic transmission, and racial distribution. He had previously spent several winters in Greenland and wrote an overview in 1953 of what was known about the spot. He hypothesized that the age at which it faded in various populations might prove to be a distinguishing characteristic of those groups. Jessin claimed that the spot was first observed amongst the Inuit. Hans Eget Sabai, a Danish priest and botanist, spent 1770–1778 in Greenland. His diaries, published in 1816 and translated into several European languages, contained much ethnographic information. He described the spot on newborns, saying he had seen it often when the infants were presented naked for baptism. A second Danish observer was doctor and zoologist Daniel Frederick Eschricht, mainly based in Copenhagen. In 1849, he wrote of the mixed babies he had delivered at the Lying-in hospital. He also says that the observation made for the first time by Sabai about Inuit children has been completely confirmed by Captain Hullball, who sent him a fetus pickled in alcohol. Jessin goes on to state that it was only in 1883 that an anthropologist mentions the spot. It was Erwin Bälz, a German working in Tokyo, who described a dark blue mark on Japanese infants. He presented his findings in 1901 in Berlin, and from that point on, Bälz's name was associated with certain skin cells containing pigment. Captain Gustav Frederick Holm wrote in 1887 that his Greenlandic interpreter Johannes Hansen, known as Hanserack, that year the Danish anthropologist Søren Hansen drew the connection between the observations of Bälz in Japan and Sabai in Greenland. This cannot be a coincidence. It is not the first time that the resemblance between the Japanese and the Eskimo has been pointed out. Fridtjof Nansen, the Norwegian polar explorer, said that the spot was widespread in the mixed Danish-Inuit population of West Greenland. Søren Hansen confirmed this. A missionary in Bethel, Alaska, a traditional gathering place of Yupik people, reported that the spots were common on children. Rudolf Trebitsch, an Austrian linguist and ethnologist, spent the summer of 1906 on the west coast of Greenland and listed all the examples he came across. Jessin went to North Labrador in 1926, looking for children with these spots. In 1953, Dr. Saxdorf, medical advisor to the Greenland Department, part of the Danish government, wrote that the Greenlanders do not like outsiders to see or discuss these birthmarks. They doubtless feel as a reminiscence of the time when they lived on a low cultural level. The presence or absence of the slate-gray nevus was used by racial theorists such as Joseph Dennecker (1852–1918), the French anthropologist. The Journal of Cutaneous Diseases, including Syphilis, Volume 23, contained several accounts of the slate-gray nevus on children in the Americas. Home Ethnological Sketch, Communications on Greenland, X. Copenhagen, 1887, announced the presence of the spot in the east part of Greenland. Bartels, the so-called Mongolian spots on infants of Esquimaux, Ethnologic Review 1903, received letters regarding it from East Greenland and also from Esquimaux of Alaska. In half-breed European Esquimaux, Hansen says he has encountered it. Among Indians of North Vancouver, British Columbia, there are observations made by Bälz as well as by Tenkate secondhand. In the Mayas of Central America, Starr's data on the ethnography of western Mexico, Part H, 1902 facts are corroborated by Herman Apercimiento de la Mancha Mongolica, Revista de Ethnologia, 1904. He cites A. F. Chamberlain, Pigmentary Spots, American Anthropologist, 1902, and Star Sacral Spots of Mayan Indians, Science, New Series, Roman 17, 1903. In Central America, according to these authorities, the spot is called Uits Pan, and it is an insult to speak of it. It disappears in the 10th month. It is bluish-reddish in these native people, and is remarkable by its small size. The mulberry-colored spot is very well known in Afro-Brazilians. In Brazil, among individuals of mixed indigenous American and West African descent Pardo, it is called jenipapo, from its resemblance in color bluish-gray to an indigenous fruit of Brazil, named jenipapo, a native word adopted into Portuguese. Prevalence. Treatment. As a congenital benign nevus, Mongolian spots do not require treatment and in most cases disappear before adolescence. No cases of malignant degeneration have been reported. Cultural terminology. The slate-gray nevus is referred to in the Japanese idiom shiriga ai kauga kingai, meaning to have a blue butt, which is a reference to immaturity or inexperience. In Mongolian language, it is known as koktalbo. Korean mythology explains the nevus as a bruise formed when Samson Helmi or Samson Helmoni, Korean, Samson Helmioni, a shaman spirit to whom people pray around childbirth. In Chinese, it is referred to as Qinghen Pinyin, Qinghen, literally, blue mark. Among common folk it is said to be caused by the Buddhist goddess of childbirth. Others say it is because the baby does not want to leave the mother's womb, so Songzi Guanyin will kick it out, leaving the bruise. A small portion of people wrongfully believe it is caused when the doctor is slapping the baby's backside to make it cry. Scientifically, it is also referred to as Minguban Pinyin, Minguban, literally Mongolian spot. In Khmer, it is known as KH now, which translates to Mongolian spot, as well as other skin conditions, such as vitiligo and leukoderma. The mark is also common among Maya people of the Yucatan Peninsula, where is referred to as Wa in Maya, which means circle. In Ecuador, the native Indians of Colto are insultingly referred to in Spanish by a number of terms which allude to the slate-gray nevus. In Spanish it is called Mancha Mongolica and Mancha de Bälz, see Erwin Bälz. In Inupiaq, is it called Otak or Oktak, which relates to the word for blood and also means mole,